I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was
our
the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
We are live for the first time on slow motion broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
These three going right at it. We see you're getting really, really squirrely. There
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh, no. Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Slow Motion Broadcasting. I am going to be Daniel Zippy Salmon here in the booth, and joining me is Randall McGrew on the co-commentators, and in the production booth, we've let him in, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adam Thompson. Today, we're going to be doing the Weekend Warriors. It's week 9, and we're at Autodromo Enzo Adino Ferrari, or what is more affectionately known as Imola, an absolutely fantastic track. And as you can see there, temperature right now, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. If you look at the track as well, you got 80 degrees. It looks like there may be a very slight chance of rain as well, but it's going to be good to see these guys go around in the F1600s. Randall, what would be your thoughts and approaches on this track, sir?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we lock the door there. Make sure that we keep Adam over in the production booth, and he likes to sneak in here whenever he's not involved. So now that that's out of the way, yeah, this track is going to be a really tricky combo with this car, especially the moto layout. Breaks up that front straightaway. You really need to get a good run off the last corner, but you're also going to need a good run out of that moto chicane on the front straight on every lap except for the last lap. And we could see a last moment dive bomb into that moto chicane also on the last lap, because that's right there before the start finish line. So you need to make sure you defend that properly if you're in a fight at the end of the race.
Well, it's definitely going to be a good bit of racing action. Certainly the F1600s do promote close racing, but let's take a very quick look at the championship standings. As you can see there, top of the food chain, it's James Barry in the 100 car, the British driver for insert name E-Racing team. That is fantastic. He's leading right now with 653 points. Jason Green right behind him for Team Green with 635. Then a little bit of a gap there to get down to third place of Kevin Adrian for Adrian Autosport. And as we have a look as well, we've got more championship standings for you in the S2 level. David Foy is leading the Canadian driver with 407 points. A nice tidy lead there, but Bill Walker, he's not far. He's closely followed there by Dana Bowles. That is your top battle. As you can see, the points in the top 5 very close together, so potentially a few positions on the line. As we have a look at the Masters class, now this would be some names that you'd be familiar with. Antonio Reis, he's at the top of the food chain for this one, 613 points, but I will say Jörg Manny is showing pace here today as well. He's right behind him in Team Old Farts. That's fantastic. Jim Brewster in 3rd with Brad Carfart and Gary Wombolt in 4th and 5th there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's for the points, and we are currently here in qualifying. Randall, what are you seeing so far?
Like you said, a lot of speed out of Jörg Manny, but we see that every week. He's been a little bit snake bit this season with incidents and not being able to complete races. So that leaderboard doesn't exactly reflect the relative speeds. A new driver for me, Fedo Coleman, right now leading the way. Looks like James Berry, in the early part of the season was kind of the standout, and now he's got a lot of competition. We're seeing some of the regular drivers take it to him, and we're also seeing some new drivers come in and challenging for that top spot.
Well, as I was saying very shortly ago, the F1600 does really promote close racing, and sometimes you'll find that there's different style of drivers. You know, some guys will be incredibly fast at, you know, putting down a qualifying lap, as we're seeing a lot of yellow sectors there, but you know, and other guys, it's all about the racecraft. And then not only that, we have a field of about 26 cars as it stands right now. You know, it really does come down to attrition as well, as we're currently on board with one of the guys. You can see there going through that chicane and heading down what I believe is the start finish straight.
Yeah, it's that moto chicane that you don't really see a lot of use of in the iRacing service. They're using it this week, both in the officials and in this league. So it's a nice wrinkle that's going to break up that front straightaway. It does kind of kill some of the slipstreaming opportunities, but it will lead into a really good overtaking chance with a bit of slipstream as you come out of that last corner and approach that chicane. So yeah, I think adding another chicane into a track like this, attrition will definitely be a big deal with these open wheel cars that are relatively slow. As you said, promotes a lot of close racing, and close racing in an open wheel car can often lead to heartbreak.
Oh, absolutely. And often with these guys, you'll see there'll be, like, if you was to look vertically down the plane, you would see 3 wheels in a row. And it's not because the guys have modified the cars, but it's because they are roasting? Well, probably that too, but they are racing that closely together that they are pretty much in synchro. As you see here, this is one of my favorite parts of the track, that long left-hander going down, taking in that beautiful elevation change. And I do think just here, this is what's going to catch a few of the drivers out. If you carry a little bit too much speed there, you can shoot off, but definitely crucial to get an absolutely fantastic exit out of that corner. Otherwise, you're just basically going to lose pace the whole way down this straight heading into this final chicane.
And this chicane at the top of the hill is tricky, will often catch a lot of drivers out. You can take too much of that curb and get a slowdown or get an off track. And then if you get all 4 wheels off the red and white curbing there at the exit, you will also get an off track. The penalties for the incidents in this league are pretty tight, so you need to manage that, especially if you get involved in any of the early race contact. That's going to eat up a lot of your incident points. So track limits could be a big deal here. Like that lap for sure is going to be invalidated because he ran too wide there between the 2 final corners.
Yeah, definitely. As you were saying, track limits is a huge thing, especially if you are to receive a slowdown penalty as well. But some good news, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like they do have a fast repair available to them. So if things do go particularly sideways, you know, that option is there to try and give them a little bit of a reprieve. But as I look through the field, quite an eclectic mix of iRating as well. And as I have a look, actually the highest is actually going to be Jörg Manny. He's rocking about 6,100. So yeah, that's nothing to shake a stick at. And then we have as far a range as a 1348 with Lennon Raimondo van Bockhurst. But I've got to say as well, the beautiful thing about these cars is they do offer, especially if you're the level of driver, which I am, and that's certainly not as good as these guys for sure. But these cars, they promote you, and they help encourage you to race with people who are, you know, instinctively faster than you, because that draft has such a huge effect here.
Yeah, every track is a slipstream track in cars of this caliber. So you'll see it come into play at many points during the lap around here where you wouldn't normally see it in cars like GT3s. So we're going to have lots of racing, and with a track this wide as it is in some sections, definitely going to promote side-by-side racing. And I expect on that start, we're going to see some 3, possibly even 4 wide coming down into turn 1. They may be broken up a little bit by that moto chicane on the start, but there's going to be some caught sleeping, and there's going to be some action turn 1, and we'll see if everybody can make it through there alive.
Oh, to say that, we see one of these guys going and taking a little bit of a drift off there. Just bear with us. There we go. We're back again. And that is actually one of the things about these F1600s. I do find that they do actually let you slide the car around quite a bit, which is definitely a lot of fun. Certainly one of the things that I do enjoy. And, you know, it's certainly, as much as it is fun to find a limit of grip, it is more fun to dance along the limit of grip, I find. You know, finding a limit is fun, but dancing along the line, almost teasing with it, that for me is the most fun you can have when driving one of these cars.
We see the checkered flag is out now, so a few drivers are going to be able to complete their laps. Right now, James Berry leading the way. He's not very far ahead of Fedo Coman, so we have a good battle up front. We see some of the Masters mixed in the top 10, as well as one of the S2s. Dave Foy's really come on in the back half of this season, showing a lot of pace, and if he gets that racecraft workout, I suspect we'll see a red number plate on his name instead of a green one in the coming seasons.
Well, that is one of the things, ladies and gentlemen. We do have a couple of different classes in here, and certainly, while it may be nice to be promoted, sometimes it's not necessarily what you're looking for, as we have like the S1, the S2, and the Masters. Now, the Masters in particular, I want to highlight on very briefly, because to be in that category, you have to be, I think it's over 60 years old, which is, in my world, absolutely incredible to see somebody of that age, that caliber, and for lack of better words, that well seasoned, to being able to move a race car as well as they do.
And the thing that comes with that age most of the time is a lot of experience. So some of the drivers in the Masters division may not have that 1 lap pace, but they will be there at the end of the race. They know how to keep the car clean. They know how to click off consistent lap times, make overtakes in ways that aren't super high risk, and will often be there at the end of the race to challenge for the overall podium, or sometimes even the overall win.
Absolutely. And actually, my iRacing mentor is he's an older gentleman as well. That's Mr. C.R. Reed. I bumped into him 4 or 5 years ago, and the biggest thing he ever taught me, don't get me wrong, I don't always remember it as well as I should, but low risk, high reward. But that is bringing qualifying. It's starting to come to a close there, so we'll go over your grid very, very shortly. But absolutely fantastic track, and I'm very much looking forward to this racing here today.
It should be a good one. We're just waiting for the final results of qualifying to come in, and we'll get that grid to you. Yes, this will be an exciting race, guarantee you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see here, actually quite a scenic track as well. And actually, one of the things I find that the sim doesn't quite fully capture, I mean, they do a pretty darn good job, but elevation change, and that is one of the favorite parts for me about some of these racing circuits. Now, if you've ever been to, for example, Brands Hatch, that first turn going down the hill, that's several stories high. You know, that's like jumping out of a window and doing it in a car. But we'll get to that grid very, very shortly. I'm sure our director will pop that up in just a moment. Yeah. Meantime, you're stuck listening to me and stuck listening to Randall. So my apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. Not for Randall, he's pretty good, but for me. But it's definitely going to be a fun race. And again, Randall, I don't really know too much yet about yourself, but what kind of driving do you tend to do in the sim? Are you a road guy, oval? Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm definitely a road racer more than anything else. I'm kind of known in the Mustang world for the FR 500Ss. There's the grid.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as you mentioned Mustangs, you know, that was the end of that, and the spectators were certainly running and fleeing. But James Barry, that's what's going to be what he's going to be trying to do. He's got the pole spot in first, with Fedo Coman, my apologies, alongside him in second. Antonio Reese, he's your lead Masters in third, with George Gonzaga in fourth, Jerk Manny in fifth, Jason Green in sixth, David Foy in seventh, with Andrew Lau in eighth, Fabian Singer in ninth, and Michael McConnell in 10th, as we have a look at Paul Stevens in 11th and Bill Walker in 12th.
13th is going to be Andrew Love in that 5.44 entry, easy for me to say, alongside Kevin Adrian. Josh Wilkie will come in 15th alongside Jeff Jacobson in 16th. Dana Bowes and Peter True will be 17th and 18th respectively, followed by Brad Cathcart Jim Brewster in both of those drivers in that Masters division. P21 is going to be Matthew Briggs alongside Russell Telker, and then behind them will be Gary Wobold in 23rd with Leon Bokhorst in 24th. And then to round out the field, Paul Jackson in 25th with Ishmael Batuk in 26th and Soren Garrett's in 27th. And now I don't believe that Ishmael or Soren set a lap time, so we'll see if they take to the grid. Right now it does look like they're on the grid, so we will have a full field of 27 cars.
Oh, definitely. Sometimes some people will very deliberately avoid qualifying. And myself, I've always enjoyed the challenge of trying to go last through a first. Don't get me wrong, just getting the first place is, well, it doesn't happen very often. You've got a better chance of the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. And, you know, that's really saying something. I mean, I'm not a hockey fan, but even I know that that's a good joke. But, you know, as I look at it, it may be a tactical choice, because if I look at Ismail's I rating, he's rocking 4,900 IR. Soren Garrett's, he's not exactly a slouch either. He's got 3,100, you know. I think it may have been an intentional decision not to put in a qualifying time.
With the track limits here, it's easy to invalidate a lap. So either of those drivers could have been out there during qualifying and just not set a good lap time. But I think you're right. They're probably just going to camp it in the back and try to make as many overtakes as they can, work their way through this field, as now we see the cars are rolling behind the safety car and approaching the start line.
Well, it does appear that these guys are not doing a full course safety lap, and that's okay. You know, certainly it means more racing action for us. As we see here, Ismail Batuk, the Iberian driver, he's starting back in 25th place, and I do believe he's one of the drivers that did not post a time, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But very quickly, I got to ask, who's your money on for trying to take the top spot today, Randall?
James Berry's been the class of the field pretty much all season. We did see Christian Kabenka was taking it to him over the past couple weeks, but James Berry's never a bad bet. Though this new name, Fedo Coleman, looks very, very quick as well. But I'm going to stick with James.
Well, myself, I'm going to be going for age on this one. Antonio Reese would be my choice. Having spoke to him a few times in the interview room, I've got a lot of confidence in this guy, and we're going to see exactly what he can do. But it looks like we've got a couple of team entries here. The insert name here racing team, James Barry, and that looks like, yeah, there we go, George Gonzalez right behind him. So that's good. You can use that team advantage, certainly at the start of the race. This could be a very, very crucial move, as these guys are going to be getting ready to go green any moment now. Barry is going to want the best launch he can get. Gonzaga able to cover off that line on the opposite side of the track, but we're getting ready. The suspense. Come on. Looks like he's gone single file there. Yep, and I think he's off. I think he's absolutely cheesed it. I know I certainly would have done. And yep, there we go. Go, 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 go. And you see there, James Barry, able to absolutely run away, leaving his teammate a little bit behind him, because Gonzaga already 1 second back. So definitely a colorful start there. Looks like the guys generally getting very quickly into single file, and I can't blame them there. Everybody clean through so far as we look through the field. A couple of moves being made. Jim Brewster trying to make a move there on the outside, and then the inside, flicking it over, but clean racing so far.
They make it all the way through Villeneuve with no incident. One note, though, it looks like Fedo Coleman, possibly carrying a penalty from a previous round, had to start from the pits. So despite his P2 qualifying position, he is now at the tail end of this field, hoping to catch up with the rest of the group so he can get some of that delicious slipstream.
Well, that is an absolutely valid point there. At 2.4 seconds behind, he's really going to have to knuckle down to catch up and then make his way through the traffic. It does tell us, yeah, he did have a pit stop. So interesting to see what happens there. But it looks like George Gonzaga, they're fighting as well as Antonio Reese. That's who we got on board with right now. And that gap, about 0.3 of a second as it stands. James Barry in a 100 car, able to pull away a second gap already. But the field so far very clean, and you know, definitely having a fantastic battle so far. As Jason Green, I'm predicting he's going to stay within that top 5 bracket, but I'm hoping he can produce a little bit more and potentially get on the podium.
Jason Green, also known for coming to life after the pit stop. So once he comes into the pit lane, expect to see a lot of speed out of him. He's pretty well known for saving fuel and having a short pit stop, and then becomes extra racy as we see a battle here between Antonio Reese and Jorge Gonzaga. Right now, Antonio Reese leading the way, gets that move done through the final 2 corners on the normal layout, the Rivazza, as they make their way up the front straight to that moto chicane. Right now, Antonio Reese leading the way over those two. Well,
As an absolutely fantastic pass, as either our director has inhaled his beer up the wrong nostril or something's just happened, but we'll keep an eye on it as James Berry there just set the fastest lap, understandably so, able to pull away from the field, having no traffic to fight him. And I've got to say, a great job by Antonio Rees. He's going to be very aware of the 925 car of Jurg Manny. That is another Masters up in the top 5. These guys are going to be hard at it, battling away. But Jason Green there, as we see that, and it looks like Andrew Lau, he's able to make a move. He's having a bit of a battle there with David Foy, as I think we may have a replay coming up.
I'm hearing that possibly went wide there. Andrew Lau Dave Foy may have gone wide there and allowed that opportunity to happen for Andrew Lau as he's made his way up. We're going to take another look here, taking a look at Andrew Lau's car. And Dave Foy does run wide there coming out of that first chicane. Allows Lau around the outside, and then Foy's going to end up giving up another position coming into Villeneuve.
Oh, definitely. You've got to, as much as you want to use as much of the grip as possible, but I'm seeing a couple of warnings on the on my events log, so I've got a feeling our director's going to be giving me a subtle hint very soon. But let's have a look at Soren Gerritz. He's a Belgian driver, I believe. Don't get me wrong, I'm never very good at geography, but there we go. Here's a replay. Oh my gosh, and I can see why I've got crash warnings. 3 wide, potentially 4 wide at one point, and you can see there, gets hooked up. Chaos, panic, and disorder. It's like I joined a battle myself.
That's the problem with starting at the back of the field and foregoing qualifying, is you can end up in a situation like this. And we see both the drivers that didn't set a lap time, both involved in that incident at the back of the field coming into that first chicane. So they rolled the dice trying to drive through the field, and it looks like they got a little bit snake bit from that.
It definitely did not work out as they intended, but everything is currently working out very well for your boat, actually, James Barry. As we see Fabian Singer there, looked like he was going quite slow. As I have a look at the car, I don't see any damage, but here's a little replay. Jim Brewster here. Very briefly, my apologies. Fabian Singer now, that's in the bright purple car with an absolutely fantastic logo on the side of that car. The slow motion broadcasting being represented there. Let's see exactly what happens. Everything's looking clean so far, and he stopped.
You have to wonder if maybe he had a slowdown from Variante Alta at the top of the hill, and he was trying to serve it, and he was running out of time, and just had to throw out the anchor to get that slowdown served. It's an unfortunate impact on the iRacing service in particular, those slowdowns. Would prefer to see somebody not serve that on the racing line the way he did, though. He was pretty far away from the exit of the corner, gave people enough time to see that he was slow. So I can only assume that was what happened.
I'm fair to say I think you've got the right conclusion there, Randall. I'm not going to disagree with you in the slightest. That is a very, very good explanation as to why Fabian was basically, for lack of a better word, sandbagging it down the straight. But as we can see here, David Foy, he is currently under pressure from Joshua Wilkie. Now, that is a name that I'm familiar with. He is also involved in broadcasting as well and does an absolutely fine job, I might add, but definitely applying pressure right now to David Foy, about 0.2 of a second behind him, and he's also got to keep behind it. Kevin Adrian is right behind him, Fabian Singer, Andrew Love, Jeff Jacobson. He has a whole stream of cars right behind him, so if he wants to make that move, he has really got to make sure that it is not going to backfire and potentially cost him 3, 4, if not 5 positions in the process.
Absolutely. We see this time and again in these FF cars, that if you make a move and it doesn't stick, not only do you not gain the position, you lose one. Or in this case, you could lose many, many positions depending on where you're at on track. This Spec 2 battle has gotten really spicy. We see 4 of the Spec 2 drivers together racing for that win in class. Dave Foy was kind of commanding these drivers until he ran wide, and now he's sitting mired with his other rivals.
Well, definitely, and this is one of my favorite kinds of racing, when you literally have a whole train of cars. I almost want to try and basically say, let's get a Mexican wave going, because that would be absolutely hilarious, despite being at an Italian track right now. The point still stands, it'd be a lot of fun. But as we have a look very quickly here, Jeff Jacobson with the SRT Esports car, He's currently serving a slowdown by the look of that, having to really, dial that car back. And it just goes to show as well, risk versus what. As we look further through the field, looks like they were 2 wide, almost 3 wide at one point, and everything is absolutely flying around like a hornet's nest. Joshua Wilkie looking to get by and finding the door closed very firmly in his face, not able to make a move. And here we have Kevin Adrian as well. He is hot, trying to make the action, chasing after Fabian Singer, who's looking like he's trying to put a wheel up on the inside of Paul Stevens. Not quite able to get it done. Stevens with the much better exit speed there, as Adrian, I believe, is trying to make a move down the outside.
Somebody came into this deck of cards and decided to shuffle it up. Dave Foy now in the lead for Spec 2. And I think we saw one driver, it may have been Kevin Adrian, that ran across the gravel there in that first chicane, possibly got a slowdown or was running with much less speed down the straightaway. And Joshua Wilkie got caught up behind him and chaos ensued. They managed to sort it out and nobody's bent up too much. And Dave Foy leads Spec 2 again. We jump up to Jörg Manny running fourth right there on the tailpipe of Jorge Gonzaga.
Well, this is something that Antonio Reese will be very much hoping that Jorge can absolutely defend against Jörg Manny. This is the battle for the Masters class, albeit there's Master versus Apprentice in some ways in this case. The more that Jorge can hold up Manny, the better news it is for the 914 of Antonio Reese. But it looks like Jorge's managed, my apologies, Jörg Manny has managed to get by. They both start with a J. In my defense, they both start with a J. But Jörg absolutely trying to run away now, but it's fair to say Jorge is absolutely applying the pressure. But Jason Green right behind him as well. Both those cars, 3/10 of a second between them.
And Jorge Gonzaga inherited that P2 starting position. You saw he started up there right with James Berry. James caught him sleeping a little bit. But Jorge, I'm making the same mistake. Jorge's been steadily falling back as we see contact between him and Jason Green. That's going to really put a damper on Jason Green's race. It doesn't look like either car picked up much damage. Michael McConnell going to inherit a position there, but Jorge Gonzaga has been steadily falling back through that lead pack. It seems maybe he overheated his tires a little bit at the opening and has been struggling to get him back into a good working range. Maybe now his little trip through the grass will help him get that sorted out, but he's going to be playing catch up even more now. Andrew Lau also inherited a position and ended up to fourth place.
Well, definitely in that incident, Jorge was the better one who emerged of the two. Jason Green dropping all the way down to 16th place, not what he had in mind. But as I say that as well, one of the cars we saw earlier in an incident, Ismail Batug, he was caught out early on. He's just set the fastest lap of a 201.897. So great drive by him, but absolutely not able to capitalize on that, down in 24th place. As we're having a look here at Joshua Wilkie in the 223 car, the Canadian driver applying as much pressure as he can to Paul Stevens. That's a British driver, ladies and gentlemen. And I've got to say as well, out of a lot of the countries obviously being British, I find that the Brits do have quite a motorsporting pedigree. As I say that, he is in team Slothly Does It, so it's kind of a little bit of a contradiction there.
Yeah, we might have to call him Captain Slow, but right now he's not looking very slow at all. He's fourth out of this five-way battle for the Spec 2 win. This group is going to be shuffling the whole race, I believe. We may see an incident or possibly the pit stop break this group up a little bit. But right now, they're all running really close together.
Oh, absolutely. And certainly he's going to be in that car if he is indeed Captain Slow, saying buffeting, as we see Antonio Reese already coming in the pits. That is a little bit of a surprise. Very early pit stop. I don't think I've seen him catch any damage, so potentially a tactic here. We're going to have to wait and see.
We see this almost every week out of Antonio Reese. He comes in very early. This might actually be the latest that he's pit in any race that we've watched. I've had at least two, possibly even three incidents where I thought he pitted way too early and there was no way he was going to make it, and he makes it work every time. We see Jason Green locked in a battle here through the moto chicane, back here with the drivers that he really shouldn't be running with, trying to make his way back up and recover some after that incident into the first chicane. We'll see if he can make it through clean this time. And yes, it looks like he's going to have no problems getting that move done and a clean run through that first chicane and then into Tamburello.
Well, it comes down to it. If you are a regular racer in this league and you know the name Jason Green, I don't think you're really going to try and fight him. I think, if anything, you're going to let him get by as cleanly as possible and then try and stick on the tail end. As we see there, Paul Stevens in the 210 Slothly Does It machine. He is under pressure. Joshua Wilkie's been able to sneak by on the inside, but it does look like Kevin Adrian is trying to capitalize on that opportunity as well. Now, is this a break that Joshua Wilkie needs to try and pull away from that pack and try and catch up to Fabian Singer, Brandon Walker, I get that right, Bill Walker, my apologies, and David Foy for the Spec 2 battle?
right now, Singer on a bit of an island, trailing behind Walker and Foy, and we see that Dave Foy has caught Michael McConnell here, so we'll have some battling going on, and maybe some Spec 2 drivers making their way towards the podium, as we're seeing a move out of Foy onto McConnell. McConnell's going to have the inside, but the move is going to be done well before they get to the final 2 corners, and Foy is going to jump up to 5th place.
Absolutely fantastic job there by Mr. Where's it gone? David Foy. He's very keen to get that move done. And not only that, having that Spec 1 car between him is only going to help his chances. Generally, the more traffic you have between you and your rivals, the better chances you have of success. As we see Jorge Gonzaga trying to pull away a little bit as well. We saw him involved in that incident earlier, able to retain 4th place. As it looks like we got more battles going on throughout the track. That Spec 2 battle being the hottest action going on. But James Barry, the insert name e-racing team, he's having an absolute belter right now. Pulled away from the field 7.5 seconds.
Absolutely. Seeing him walk away again, he parlayed that really, really good start where he caught most of the field in that chicane into a massive lead. Now we saw a lot of fighting in those other podium spots that let him just kind of gap the rest of the field, and he just continues to gap lap after lap.
As I see there, Bill Walker in the 319 car for the JWR 14. He's currently in 7th place. He's going to be very keen to get past McConnell in the 62 machine and not let David Foy get that little runaway. He's definitely going to have to apply the pressure there. As we see, he's definitely trying hard as he can, but not yet able to get the move done.
Bill Walker having a really good race here, though, is still stuck behind McConnell. He wants to get that move done because whenever you're in this lower division, oftentimes those cars between you and the leader spell big points. And as you're at the top end of the field, the gap between positions for points is bigger. So just because you're in the Spec 2 doesn't mean that you don't want to race those Spec 1 drivers. That having McConnell between him and Foy means more points for Foy in that gap, and he's already got enough of a gap. So he really wants to get around McConnell to close that gap up and eventually hopefully pass David Foy. We're watching Matthew Briggs come through very anti-alta, chasing down Peter True. Peter True in that Spec 2, Briggs in that Spec 1, and they got David Bowes in Spec 2 behind him. Peter True leading the way right now of this group. Looks to be pretty comfortable out here, had a pretty clean race. We haven't talked much about him, and normally that's a really good thing. That means you're having a clean race and you're not drawing the attention of the cameras. We're going to take a look back in the field here. Ishmael Batug, we saw him with the incident earlier with Soren Garrett and a couple others trying to work his way up the field and doing a decent job as they come into the moto chicane. He's going to have his hands full here with a couple drivers battling in front of him. Going to be a little bit slow, and then now he's going to have a good run down that front straight into the run into the first chicane. Looking right now to the outside, going to try to make the outside move stick. Not really going to happen. Peter True in front of him. Going to take a somewhat defensive line, tighten up that entry a little bit, cover it off, and going to have a good run through Tamburello. And maybe we'll see a move into Villeneuve here out of Ishmael. Doesn't get the best run off the corner, so I think True's still going to have that position. Again, going a little bit defensive. I don't know if that's completely necessary. Maybe defending air at the moment, though Ishmael is looking really quick. I can understand why he might do so.
Well, I definitely understand what it is to be a defensive driver. It's usually the tactic that I have to employ. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy riding a rear bumper. Not that these guys have got one, but it's definitely a little bit of a higher risk. But one thing that is often underestimated is being able to position the, I say the enemy car. It sounds a lot more serious than it is. As you see, Ismail Batug able to get by. But this could be a good thing there for Peter True if he can potentially get on the back end of that car and then pull himself through. But we've got a replay here of Brad Carfart in the 905 car, the Australian driver. Seems to be out on his own right now. A little bit of a Billy No Mates, and that's certainly a situation I'm familiar with at times in my life. But here we go. Let's see exactly what happened. And, oh, yeah, a little bit of weight movement and had a little bit of a slide there.
And Brad Cathcart is one of the few that we've seen in the pits already. He, Soren Garrett, Russell Telker have been in the pits. We just saw Paul Stevens, who was the first of that group of 5 racing for that Spec 2 win, to come into the pits. So pits are starting to happen. I think we'll see more of these drivers stretch it out a little bit further, and we'll see a lot more action around the 20-minute mark and then towards the 30-minute mark.
Well, I got to say as well, I see some of you are in the chat. Michelle Lynn, thank you very much for tuning in. Definitely a oh no, Jason. But it's fair to say he dropped back to 15th, 16th, and he has moved his way up to 11th and is currently about 5.2 seconds behind the next car for 10th place. So definitely making his way back through the field. I do wonder if he can do something over when the pits open. But currently we're looking at the 319 of Bill Walker for the JWR 14 team, and he is applying as much pressure as he can onto the back of McConnell. That's Michael McConnell, ladies and gentlemen. Currently 2 temps back, and definitely trying to get by this car and get on the heels of David Foy in the 726.
Right now, Bill Walker kind of playing the role of a dog chasing a car. Once he catches Michael McConnell, he just doesn't really know what to do with him once he catches him and can't get around him. So he really needs to keep applying that pressure, hope that McConnell makes a mistake that he can capitalize on, because right now it doesn't seem like he knows how to get this overtake done. This is kind of a tricky track to get some of these moves done, so he's going to have to be bold at some point if he's going to hope to get around McConnell.
So it looks like we've got a quick replay here of Ismail Batug making another pass. This guy is definitely keen to make his way through the field and making a pass on the outside. That's definitely brave, but it looks like he's got it done. Starts on the outside, goes to the inside, and Matthew Briggs doing everything he can to try and defend that, but Ismail able to carry a little bit more exit speed there, so even if he didn't get him at the first part of the maneuver, he's certainly going to try it at the second. Very hot on the heels there of Matthew Briggs. And yeah, he was passed for a very brief second, and then not quite able to get it done. Briggs manages to hold on. I say that, it looks like Ismail wasn't having any of it. The Iberian driver has said, nope, I'm keen for that position, and yeah, I'm taking it. Consider it mine.
Gets it done in very anti-alto. We saw him coming into the approach for turn 1. It looks like he was a little unstable under the brakes, was able to carry a lot of speed there on the outside, then left just a little too much space, just a little too much respect for his other drivers, and choked himself off on the run out of the first chicane and was beat by the time he got to Villeneuve. Then gets it done in very anti-alto, which is a very tough passing spot. It does make that move done. So you like to see a lot of respect between these drivers, and that's what we saw there.
I've got to say as well, it's my first time working with Mr. Randall McGrew in the commentary booth, but his knowledge of track names and track corners is absolutely subliminal. Certainly something I can... The director's just whispered something in my ear that I can't repeat on air, but basically it was along the lines of, you can quit fluffing the guy. But no, I've got to say, absolutely fantastic job there. Certainly something I could do with improving on. But we see here, Bill Walker, he's still looking to try and improve and get past McConnell, definitely keeping it more honest. And I do wonder as well, is McConnell losing pace there behind David Foy in an attempt to hold off the 319 of Bill Walker?
It does seem that Foy has a little bit more pace than McConnell. That was clearly evidenced earlier in the race when Foy got around McConnell. McConnell's one of those drivers that's also there at the end typically. So after he makes his pit stop, seems to find a little bit more pace. Right now, it looks like he's just trying to hold the station, trying to keep up with Dave Foy. But Foy is just, every week it seems like he's getting quicker and quicker. And yeah, like I said, he's not going to have that green number plate for very long.
Yeah, well, that is definitely a compliment if you get promoted up into the more senior S1 class. I say senior, it's not by age, it's by talent and I rating, I believe. We'll clarify the brackets. I know they told me before, but let's be real, my brain cells are maybe not as active as they once were. I may have banged my head a few times, and let's be real, there wasn't that much there to be starting with. But I see there, David Foy doing an absolutely fantastic job. He is currently leading the S2 series and is only 400 I rating away.
Yeah, we locked the door so that he can't come in and take over the mics, and he just starts putting messages in the text. So Dave Foy, not very far away. So when it comes to league racing, I rating can tend to be a bit of a red herring sometimes. You can have a driver that has a really high I rating, and they're maybe specialized in a different style of car, and they won't carry the speed necessarily. Or you have drivers like Dave Foy that have a lower I rating than a lot of the Spec 1 drivers. But he could be just, a really good FF driver, and it punches above his weight when it comes to I rating in a certain car. We're taking a look at Bill Walker now, as he had a run through Acca Minerale, got a little bit wide, coming up to very anti-alta, and I suspect that he's going to have some trouble with these curves, and that's exactly what happens. Gets a little bit too much of that inside curve and goes around on his own, recovers fine, and rejoins safely and is on his way.
Well, you did warn us about that part of the track before we got into the race, and having driven this track, it's actually one of my princess-approved tracks. Now, those that don't home, I'm a little bit fussy about where I like to drive, and that chicane is probably my biggest Achilles heel on this whole circuit. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not the best driver by any means, but certainly that is a spot that always catches me out. As we see here, Fabian Singer, he's now trying to take a piece out of Michael McConnell. Obviously, Bill Walker having that little spin, that's put a new target on the back, and it looks like he's going to get it done. The 8-10 of Fabian Singer is now going side by side with Michael McConnell. He's currently ahead as they're heading down into Bill Walker's favorite chicane at this point, if I'm not mistaken. And is he going to have enough room to get it by? Yep, covers off the inside and tries to run away as fast as he can and leave that Spec 1 car in his rearview mirror.
So Fabian gets up to McConnell, has no problems getting around him, and the battle behind is music to the ears of Dave Foy as he's able to build a gap. So Fabian Singer now trying to track down Dave Foy. Is going to have a few laps to get this done. We do have pit stops for a lot of these drivers that still need to happen, so we could see some shakeups in the order from that. McConnell looked like he had a bad run out of Ackerman Rally and ended up ceding the spot here to Fabian Singer.
Well, sometimes you get different drivers with different personalities, and some are definitely a little bit more aggressive than others. Well, I'm going to give Michelle Lynn another shout out. She knew exactly which information I was after. So, ladies and gentlemen, S1 is anybody over 3,000 I rating, which, to be honest, that's definitely not something to shake a stick at. That takes some doing to get there. And S2, 3,000 I rating or under. Masters are over 60, but S2 drivers can voluntarily move to S1. So definitely a good piece of information there. As I gotta say, Michael McConnell, you have won my favorite headshot so far for this series. That's a Stitch costume, ladies and gentlemen.
We see Stitch make that move, gets that spot back from Singer into the Villeneuve chicane, and now is going to be trying to fend off Singer as they run up the hill, taking a defensive line down the straightaway. Going to park it right in the middle and basically telling Singer is like, if you're going to go inside, you have to go way inside. Right now, doesn't look like he's interested as they make the run through Tosa and get that done cleanly and back to Ackerman and Raleigh. And we'll see if McConnell can get a good run out of it this time. We see Antonio Reese now tracking down Peter True. He's working his way through some traffic after an early pit stop. This is what we normally see out of Antonio. So hopefully he can dispatch with Peter True pretty quickly and it won't cost him too much time.
It's definitely a very interesting tactic, but it comes as well, if you think more about F1 on this side is, when you come out of your pit stop, where do you want to be released? And certainly not something I've ever seen anybody be able to do really in a sim race yet. Not the level that I've been competing at anyway, maybe in top split or something like that of, the very prestigious event. But, it's interesting how he does that tactic. As we're seeing here, Fabian Singer and that's Michael McConnell again going at it. And it looks like Fabian Singer is there trying to make a move on the outside, inside. He's on one side. He's definitely gone and got that move done. And a very clean pass at that. And definitely somebody who we're going to cheer on for at Slow Motion Broadcasting as he's very cleanly representing us on his car.
This battle just going back and forth. You got to wonder how much time this is costing them to Dave Foy, though. The way they keep battling, it's really going to give Foy the opportunity to open up enough of a gap to make this pit stop going to be pretty easy for him and not have very much pressure when he rejoins to retain his position. Normally, when it comes to pit strategy here, the undercut can be pretty powerful because of the way that the pit entry is. It's a pretty long pit lane, and drivers on the track will come through carrying a lot more speed on that straightaway. But now that there's that moto chicane in there, it kind of breaks up that opportunity for an undercut. So I don't think Antonio Reese is going to gain much just purely based on the undercut. And hopefully he's able to make his way through traffic without losing too much time. That's really what his danger is traffic. That traffic will give him a bit of a slipstream, but if he gets caught behind anybody, he's going to be kind of stuck. We're going to see Josh Wilkie maybe had an incident here. We see him running down the hill towards Ravazza, and maybe he's going to get it wrong here on his own. He's going to hit that first curb, and these cars are not liking these inside curbs on these corners. It seems to really unsettle the car and send the car around.
Well, definitely. And certainly as well, you've really got to keep an eye on the weight balance, something that's very, very hard to manage sometimes within the sim. But as we see here, Jason Green, he's moved his way all the way up to 9th position. Now, don't get me wrong, outright, I'm not exactly sure where he is, but that is Ismail Batug. He was one of the people who started at the back and then had one of those incidents as well. And he's currently actually the hard charger, up 16 positions, which is absolutely incredible in a 27-car grid. But his next contestant, Jason Green, in the 160s. 160 machine is definitely not going to be easy to get by, and certainly these guys are going to go hard at it. Now, Jason Green, I would say, really understands that low risk, high reward, and it's fair to say that he is definitely keen to get recovered and make his way back to the top 5, even the top 10 at this point. He's there in 9th place, but for how long? As we see a couple of drivers there coming in the pits, these guys included Ismail Batuk choosing to follow Jason Green there into the pits.
Yeah, I was not surprised to see Jason Green dip into the pits. I am a little surprised to see that Ishmael followed him. I figured one of them would pit, the other would stay out in order to try to break up that battle, and decided on pit lane. But now they're going to be drag racing coming out of it. You saw McConnell also dipped in, going to break up that battle between him and Singer. So pit stops starting to come in, going to start shaking up the order a little bit. And we see Peter True, Andrew Love are making their way past McConnell in the pit lane, who's now on the pit exit. We'll see if some of these drivers are maybe going to come out in the traffic. It looks like McConnell's going to come out relatively clean. He will have one car approaching at pretty high speed, and everybody else behind looks like they're also going to come out clean.
Well, I gotta say, I've often wondered what True Love looked like, but I didn't think this is what's going to be the actual representation. As we see there, Peter True and Andrew Love in 9th and 10th, and definitely, Love is applying as much pressure as he can. He's currently, as I read it now, 3/10, almost 4/10 of a second behind Peter True in the 388 machine, but not yet able to get it done. But that is one thing as well to be thought about as we have a look here. Jim Brewster, now we did see him have a little bit of an incident earlier, as did Joshua Wilkie, who he's fighting with. So these guys going hard at it, and I can tell you, actually, neither of them have used their fast repairs. I think they actually both span out at the same corner, as we're back to Andrew Love, back to Jim Brewster in the Masters division, actually, as well. He's doing quite well, currently 3rd in the Masters. So while Josh Wilkie isn't his direct competition, he is still going to want to try and get ahead and get those points.
Speaking of the Masters, you'd see Antonio Reese now up to 8th overall as the pit cycle starting to make its way through. Jörg Manny in the pit lane. We'll see where he comes out in comparison to Antonio Reese. Antonio was 13 and a half seconds off of the next closest driver. It's going to be pretty close. I don't think he's going to be able to overtake Jörg Manny here. He may have had to deal with too much traffic, but I think we're going to see these two come pretty close together after the pit stop. See another driver dipping out of the pit lane, going to come out into clear track, looking for Antonio Reese to come around that last corner. Now, that may be him there, possibly. There he goes. There he is. You see Antonio Reese coming out of that last chicane now, and Jörg Manny coming out of the pits. They're going to come out right together. I was wrong. Antonio Reese does get the move done with that early pit. The huge undercut. He's going to have a sizable gap, far enough away that Jörg won't have that slipstream. So Jörg needs to set off some quality pace laps here to close that gap.
Well, I've got to say, if I was Antonio Reese, I'd be absolutely laughing my nuts off. Well, my that came out a little bit wrong, but my point I'm trying to get... It's the paint job on Jörg Manny's car. I'm sorry, but it's absolutely hilarious as you look back. Can you imagine seeing that in your rearview mirror? There you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to keep a straight face if you had that in your rearview mirror right behind you.
Yeah, maybe if Jörg gets closer, we can get a shot off the rear of Antonio's car to see just what that grin would look like in the mirror. But you're absolutely right. I would be completely distracted by this paint job. Jörg known for these paint jobs that have the weird faces on the front, and I love every single one of them.
Well, I have successfully managed to make myself blush at my own ridicule there, but I gotta say, I've seen some interesting tactics here used in sim racing and sometimes in real racing, but the paint job is definitely a fresh one on me. Now that's making me think actually of some of the I believe it's the GTE cars. Some of the 911s have like the big teeth across the front, but that's more intimidating than hilarious. So definitely, if you have a professional race car and you want to put something really funny on the paint job, I would love to see if that'll work. Power for the cause, make it work. But Jörg Manny there, I'm sorry, you got the better of me on that one.
Bill Walker, despite his incident in Variante Alta, was one of the last drivers to pit and I think he managed to lead a lap even because of it. is now in pit lane, going to give up the overall lead back to James Berry, who's just going to have an absolutely commanding lead after this pit cycle. Bill Walker coming in for service here. We're going to see him start dropping down the order. Going to put both the Masters drivers of Antonio Reese and Jörg Manny onto that overall podium. And Andrew Lau going to try to run these drivers down. It's about a 6-second gap, so he's not got a lot of time to get it done. Just under 10 minutes, just under 9 minutes to get that done. So yeah, he's going to really have to knuckle down, as you would say, Daniel, and work on closing that gap. But trying to close the gap to Jörg Manny and Antonio Reese is going to be really tough.
I definitely think it's a very ambitious challenge, but on the upside, you know, Jorge does have his teammate is Antonio Reese, so you know what, a good result as a team overall, and it's definitely good. Even though we don't have a team standing within this championship, it's good to see there's some team action going on, and definitely an interesting dynamic to think about the insert name here team. I mean, maybe they're looking for a sponsor at this point, but currently we're looking at your S2 winner, S2 leader, sorry. That's David Foy. You see there, Fabian Singer, he's still having a very keen battle, and it looks like that's where's he gone? Fredo Coman ahead of him. Well, it was. Fredo Coman currently showing behind. Let's see exactly what happened here. The number 8 car looks like he's got a move made on Singer. And yeah, he's gone down the inside, able to get that done pretty cleanly and dispatched away.
And we see that move done in Villeneuve. Now they're running down to Acca Minerale. And Fredo Coman, let's take a moment to remember. Fredo Coman qualified P2 and then had to start from the pits and has driven it up now to P7 and looking to track down Dave Foy. He has a lot of speed. We could see him track down Dave Foy. Then there's quite a gap up to Gonzaga. Or sorry, there's not quite a gap up to Gonzaga. So if he gets to Dave Foy, he's going to have 2 spots there for the taking and could finish 5th overall after a pit start. You have to wonder what could have been.
That's definitely one of the things we reassess. But on the flip side, sometimes, you know, if you start up at the front, things can go, you know, worse than, you know, Miley Cyrus' ex-boyfriend with a big hammer. I mean, for those that don't know, it was Chris Hemsworth. Our director's for absolutely face-palming at this point, but I was so proud of that pun.
That we do appreciate puns around here. The only thing we appreciate more than puns is making Adam groan in the producer's booth. Make him regret his decisions, and thank God we got that lock on the door.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, one of the little missions I've always had as well, see if I can make my co-commentator be able to commentate because they are beside themselves laughing. But right now we're going to focus on Jorge Gonzaga. He's currently in 5th place. Got David Foy right behind him, the Canadian driver, in the 726. Interesting headshot, not quite what I expected, but you know what, for a cat, he's driving very, very well.
He's not just a cat. He's the king of the cats. He's got a crown on. So we're going to see if His Highness can make his way around Gonzaga before Fredo Coman catches him. That would be, if I'm sitting in Dave Foy's car, I want to get in front of Gonzaga way before Coman catches me, because you don't want to be the first car he catches.
Well, we're going to have a quick look at Gary Robot. Let's see what's been happening with him. The United States driver with the 902. That's actually the Nova Scotia area code, ladies and gentlemen. And I know because that's where I live. And you can see there, he's applying pressure. And is he going to be able to get it done? It looks like he's going on the inside. And no, locks up a little bit under braking. Does a full ballerina move, 180 spin. And frankly, able to recover that car pretty cleanly. As we're back there with David Foy, the 726 Canadian driver.
Yeah, we saw Wobalt there have a bit of a panic brake situation. I think he was trying to go for a move and realized that door was always going to close, slammed on the brakes, but he had that wheel turned and it just caused the back end to step around. Dave Foy still trying to get around Gonzaga. We saw a couple of drivers have struggles or getting around some of the Spec 1 drivers, mainly Bill Walker struggling with McConnell, and now we're watching Dave Foy. He's caught Gonzaga, doesn't know what to do with him, and here comes Fredo Coman and Fabian Singer very quick catching these two drivers.
Well, Singer, I think he's somebody who I actually raced with back when I did the Spec Racer Ford. And if I remember rightly, he definitely wasn't a slouch then, and he's certainly not a slouch now. He's up in 8th position, doing very, very well. Only up 1 position from where he started, which, you know what, that's the kind of, you know, how do you take that? Does that mean he's having a good, clean race, or does that mean, you know, you could maybe do a little bit more? But David Foy, you know, he's ahead of them, as is Fredo Coman. You know, the potential is still there to move up and potentially get certainly a 6th place, maybe even a 5th if he can really get things swinging his way.
And that Spec 2 win is on offer. If he can get closer here to Fredo, whenever he makes the move around Dave Foy, he may be able to take an opportunistic move and also take advantage of Foy in a compromised position. Right now, it looks like Foy maybe has his eyes on the mirror as we see Paul Stevens coming back into the pit lane, possibly underfueled. Saw him going really slowly. We're going to take a look at a replay here. Maybe actually an incident with Peter True as they're coming into Ravazza. He's going to get on that inside. Gets a better run between the corners, gets closer and closer to True, and then just loses it on his own. It didn't even look like he caught the curb there, so I'm not really sure what happened. He comes off slow and then dips into the pit lane. So you have to wonder maybe if he was struggling with fuel and decided to come into the pits and go ahead and get that splash before going out again. Or maybe he had picked up damage in a previous incident. It was causing that car to handle poorly.
Well, that is an interesting thing to think about as well. You mentioned fuel, and these cars are not particularly heavy on a good day. So I can imagine as that fuel load starts to get lighter, the fuel tank I would predict would be in the back of that. I can imagine that the back end actually gets a little bit lighter there, but we're going to leave that on hold for a minute. As Fredo Coleman, he's currently in 7th place, and he is hot on the heels of David Foy. David Foy been able to hold on to that, certainly the S2 lead for quite a while now. Fredo Coleman, not really his immediate rival, but he is the car between him and Singer. So Fabian Singer will be keen, as we see here, a very, very low cam. And if he gets any closer, he's going to be in that exhaust. And I thought, oh my gosh, I thought they were going to have contact then. See a little bit of a glitch there. And he's absolutely sending it up the inside, able to get that inside line and gets the move done. But that puts David Foy in under a very vulnerable position for Fabian Singer in the 810 car. The Austrian driver is going to be keen to get that spot away from the 726.
We're coming up to 2 minutes to go. It looked like the past couple laps, Dave Foy was maybe more focused on his mirror with the approaching Fredo Coleman than he was with trying to get around Gonzaga. We saw Gonzaga was able to pull away from him a little bit. Now, does Fredo have enough time to catch Gonzaga, and does Singer have enough time to catch Foy? We could see two really good battles going here, and Dave Foy not exactly ready to give up that position yet to Fredo, or possibly there to take advantage of Jorge Gonzaga. Oh, Fredo Coleman goes off. Looks like he high-sided it there on the exit curbing, coming off the Villeneuve chicane, gets sent out into the wall, and then decides that that's enough for him and parks it. We see him there and he gets there and 50-50 grinds on to that curbing, and it just really unsettles the car and sends him off into the grass and ruins what was a really great recovery run.
I gotta say, I definitely was not expecting that, and that's probably bad news for David Foy as well, because it means, well, I suppose he's still got Jorge Gonzaga ahead of him, so he still does have a little bit of help in means of a draft. Definitely, something to keep in mind, having a car to chase, having a car to follow, and that's currently, that's working very well, as David Foy has been able to pull away about a 1.2 second gap to the 810 of Fabian Singer. And definitely, battles going on throughout the field as well. It looks like the 544 and the 388. That's Love and True. These guys swapped around earlier on in the race, but I don't think the battle is yet over. Peter True applying pressure to Andrew Love, and he's going to have to get that move done very, very quickly if he wants to retain that position.
We're seeing Fabian is on it the past couple laps. He's got quite a bit of a gap to make up. We've seen that he's kind of struggled to keep the pace up, but now he's finding a little pace in the closing stages of this race. I think they're going to be taking the white flag now, possibly. James Berry's a long way ahead, so we can't really tell if he's on the white flag lap or not yet. But that battle for the Spec 2 win, and we do see the white flag now, that battle for the Spec 2 win is definitely on. He's got an entire lap to close this gap and then make a run there on David Foy, but Dave Foy's got that slipstream from Gonzaga and might even be looking to make a move himself.
Yeah, it does look like the 726 has closed up on Gonzaga, absolutely, and this could be a crucial thing. Fabian Singer is not going to want David Foy to get ahead, as it looks like Gonzaga just shut the door there. He's going defensive, and the whole time he goes defensive, it's going to push Foy back towards Singer. This is the kind of driving antics that we saw from Carlos Sainz recently in one of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, we can see a 3-wide run into the Ravazza, or possibly some last-minute dives going into that moto chicane. Dave Foy right there on the tailpipe of Gonzaga as they come down to Acca Minerale. Singer has closed the gap. This is now a threesome here. We'll see who's going to come out the best coming up to Variante Alta. We could see disaster as Jorge Gonzaga runs a little wide and gets not the greatest run there out of Acca Minerale. Going to bring Dave Foy alongside. into Variante Alta and gets the inside line and keeps it covered off. Foy going to have not the greatest run through there, gets choked off and going to be falling into the clutches of Fabian Singer as they run down towards Ravazza.
Well, honestly, I thought Gonzaga was going to lose it then, but he's been able to hold on as we see James Barry cross the line. Fantastic win for him. Antonio Reese, the master himself, in second, but we're back here with David Foy and Fabian Singer. The action spicing up as they head there through Ravazza. Is Singer going to be able to get enough of a slipstream to get it done? There's only a couple of moments and they're going to the pits, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, it could be that both drivers have gotten enough incidents for a drive-through penalty, or they were both short fueled and needed a splash. They're both coming in to serve that penalty now. I don't know if it's a drive-through penalty, if they can serve it now and it counts or not. But we see Dave Foy is looking to get into his box, so possibly just short fueled. And it looks as if Fabian Singer is serving a penalty. Dave Foy has yet to stop and is now blending over towards the fast lane. No, he dips into his pit box. And that's the end of his race. I don't know where these two are going to end up finishing in the official order, but I'm not sure if that was fuel related or penalty related.
Well, I've seen a lot of different endings here in this, the sim racing that I've had the pleasure of commentating, but that was definitely a first for me, as we saw there. Where's he gone now? Ismail Batug, he managed to cross the line up 16 positions, ladies and gentlemen. That's nothing to shake a stick at. It looks like Andrew Love gets the better there. Oh, I say that. No, Peter True got the better. Everything's moving around, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew Love gets the better of Peter True, but we will go over what we have for results very, very shortly. As you can see there, a couple of the last stragglers coming across the line. Gary Wobolt there in the 902 car. I'm going to have to start backing that guy as he's got my area code. Paul Stevens in the Slothly Does It machine. I hear that Ice Age wanted to sign a contract with the team, but were not able to due to, franchising agreements there. But great job there by Paul Stevens. Had a really great race and definitely got caught out a little bit earlier on.
We see Leon Van Borkos coming through the final chicane and then to cross the line, going to come home in 20th, and it appears to be the last of the running drivers to finish as he makes his way across the line, and that should wrap up today's race here at Imola.
Well, I've got to say, I'm still confused, excited, and amazed by that race ending between David Foy and Fabian Singer. I'm looking forward to see what happens there. But right now, the results as we are aware of them. So in first place, you had James Barry. That was actually your choice there, Randall, for the insert name e-racing team. He was your race winner. And not only that, S1 winner as well. Antonio Reese, that is your Masters winner. He came second overall in the 914 machine with Jörg Manny. Great sportsmanship from him. I see him there in the chat. Congratulating Antonio. Great job there. He was third overall. Andrew Lau managed to take fourth with Jorge Gonzaga in fifth. Michael McConnell, he's there in sixth with Jason Green in seventh. Ismail Matug, that was your hard charger, up 18 positions, it's telling me at the end. He was in eighth with Kevin Adrian in ninth. Bill Walker in 10th.
Bill Walker also inheriting that Spec 2 win after Dave Foy and Fabian Singer came to the pits. Dana Bowes also promoted a couple of positions up to 11th. Dave Foy comes home 12th, Fabian Singer 13th. We still don't have an official word on what happened to those two. Andrew Love finds a way here in P14 over Peter True. Bad Cathcart in 16th place. Jim Brewster coming home 17th. Gary Wobolt, we've seen him have a little bit of struggles. It ends up coming home 18th. Paul Stevens was up there in the battle for the Spec 2 win, and we saw him have that issue in Ravazza. Comes home 19th. Leon Bokhorst coming home 20th. Josh Wilkie in 21st. Paul Jackson, P22. Then Soren Garrett, who started at the back of the field with no quality time set, involved in that turn one incident a couple laps into the race, comes home P23. Fedo Coleman, who we saw get caught out on the Villeneuve chicane exit curbing after an astounding run from a pit start, comes home 24th. Matthew Briggs 25th. Jeff Jacobson come home 26th, and rounding out the field will be Russell Telker 11 laps down in 27th place.
Well, what an absolutely fascinating race that was, but we will be catching up with a couple of people here very shortly for interviews. But I gotta say, it was definitely that paint gets me every time. But James Barry, he was your race winner, and to be fair, no one ever really gave him too much competition. He got an absolutely fantastic start. I'm sure we'll be talking to him very, very shortly. What an absolutely fantastic race. And speak of the man, there he is, James Barry. Tell us a little bit about how you managed to pull off such an astounding success here today.
Well, I was obviously quite fast, and Antonio behind me was also fast. I was just telling him, and he tried something different with the pit stop, he said. And I was just telling him, it's funny, he put that on to maybe put some pressure on, and then I was thinking, okay, so I just got to stick to my lap times. And then the very next lap, at the end of the lap, I almost spun around. I don't know if you caught it, but I very nearly spun around, completely lost it. Fortunately, held it together. And then from there, I just got my head down and did some good laps. So yeah, just good pace.
Well, you definitely had the pace, and it's fair to say no one really applied too much pressure to you. So I can't say I don't think I saw you have a nearly ups moment. So you kind of got away with that one until you told us about it. But that's okay. Definitely paid off for you. But what an absolutely fantastic race! It looks like the next one is going to be there at Oran Park. Tell us your thoughts about that, sir.
I don't think I'll be there because I'll be doing the Radical Championship instead, and I've got some drop weeks in hand, so I think I'm going to skip that one, but I'll be here for the last 2 races.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look forward to seeing James Barry in them last 2 races. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Thank you guys and everyone in the league for putting it all together. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was James Barry, and I understand Randall McGrew, he's been out walking in the pits as well. Randall, who have you been able to catch up with?
I found our KG veteran Antonio Rees, who came through with the Masters win. Now, James said you did a little something different with your pit strategy, and the only thing I can tell is you came in about 5 minutes later than you normally do. What was the deal with your pit strategy this week?
I am afraid to pit as soon as my spotter told me pit window open, because he sometimes make mistakes, and then I pit too early, and I left one or two laps before I pit, but didn't work. I was trying to make the cut, but didn't work at all. It was worse. I should stop on the last fuel gas on the tank. But anyway, mistakes. We always do mistakes. We learn. It sometimes works. Sometimes I pit earlier, and I really take advantage. But I don't know why. I think it's the program I use, the DRE, the way he calculates the fuel or whatever. Anyway, it was a good race.
So we saw you had a bit of traffic to deal with after your pit stop, but then you still were able to come out in front of Jörg Manning with quite a comfortable margin. How closely were you watching the stopwatch there as Jörg was in the pit lane?
Yeah, I was watching how much distance we have from each other, and then I saw the distance was cool, because before was 5 seconds and then was only 3 seconds, I think. So I see I lost some time on the pits, and then I start doing many mistakes. I have already 10 incidents. We have only 12, so I was kind of slowing down a little bit for not get more incidents and get some stress, make mistakes under the pressure of money. But fortunately, he didn't pass me.
Well, fortunately, indeed, you managed to secure that Masters win and P2 overall. Before we let you go celebrate your win, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, to you guys, the broadcast, and for the sponsors, and Steve Ray, the main administrator, the main guy of this series, and for all the guys that help him administrating, and for the drivers and for the viewers of YouTube and for my family. That's all.
All right. Well, congratulations on your win, and maybe we'll be talking to you here in a couple hours after the SRF race. And that was your Masters winner, P2 overall, Antonio Rees.
Well, what an absolutely fantastic race. And I want to give a quick shout out to Vince Hom as well. He's chosen to sponsor this series, and thank you very much for doing so. We're looking forward to seeing him on the track as soon as we can. But ladies and gentlemen, that was Imola. What an absolutely fantastic race. But before we go, I think we may have one more. I'm not too sure. We'll find out very short. Yep, we've got, ladies and gentlemen, joining us in the booth in just a very short moment. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Jörg Manning, we managed to sneak him in. We let him through the security. Jörg, tell us absolutely fantastically about your race, sir.
In the midterms, it was kind of boring. I just kept the distance between the guy behind me. I tried to close the gap in front. It was not possible, but I lost the race already on the start. But congrats, Antonio. It's great. He did a great drive. He did a good pit stop. Me not so good, but yeah, it was fun. No incidents, or at least no crashing incidents. I'm happy with it.
Well, you definitely did a very good race, and we got to see you applying some pressure to some of the cars earlier. You actually helped manage to make it a little bit of a blooper there. Good luck watching that a little bit later. That paint job certainly turning a few heads. I seen Christian DeBanga earlier mentioning about how distracting your paint job can be when looking at it in the rearview mirror. And I gotta say, I appreciate you having such a spice with the paintbrush there on that car. But Jörg, how do you feel about Owen Park next week?
Oran Park. Mixed feelings, actually. Sometimes it works very well, sometimes not. So it's not my favorite one. For me, Oulton Park is the most favorite track in any kind of car. I drove it already in Radical SR8 10 years ago, and since then I love this track. That's my main favorite track. But Oran Park, it's kind of difficult. But let's see. It's always fun to drive there as well.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you there. Being British, Oulton Park is a fantastic track, but sadly we'll be at Oran Park. And, I've got to say as well, great sportsmanship from Jörg Manny. It's good to see him there in the chat. But, Jörg, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank for today's performance?
No, I don't thank Antonio for winning that race again in the Masters class. But, of course, especially to Stevie Ray. And, it needs really a lot of work putting up that league, and I'm really in that league since a few years now, and I'm still loving it. And especially a big shout out to Stevie and to you guys who do actually a great job for broadcasting. I like to watch the videos afterwards all the time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much as well on behalf of Slow Motion Broadcasting. That was Jörg Manny, and also I want to give thanks to Stevie Ray as well. He does indeed do a fantastic job organizing this league. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that's just about wraps it up for the race. But let's have a look and see what is coming up. So in a very, very short time at 3:45 Eastern, you're going to have a lot of these drivers you'll recognize. It's going to be the Spec Racer Ford for the Weekend Warriors here at Zandvoort. Tonight as well at 8:10 Eastern, you've got the Asphalt Street Stocks in the Nuremberg Ring. And I can tell you from a little bit of a test driving yesterday, that is going to be a lot of fun to watch. You'll actually be able to see our director try and drive around that as well. I think there's like a 25-point incident cap. We'll see if he manages to make it. Thursday, August the 15th, 9 o'clock Eastern, you got GT3s at Bathurst, so take a trip over the mountain. And then back, we'll be here as well on Sunday as well. This regular Sunday entertainment here, ladies and gentlemen, with the Formula 4s, with the Weekend Warriors at Owen Park, as we were just mentioning there. But ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Daniel Zippy Salmon. Joining me in the booth has been Randall McGrew, and on the controls, Adam Thompson as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and we're going to see you very, very shortly.
We will see you very, very shortly. But before we let you go, I should have you guys this beforehand. Real quick, we do have. Yeah, I picked it. I finally got in. You guys are getting harder and harder for with the locks nowadays. Now you guys got this electric one on the door. You guys just got to let me in sometime. No, but anyways, real quickly here. You can see there's next Sunday Formula 4 at Oran Park. We actually got a bit of a late notice here. Michelle Lynn, I see you in chat there, has decided to sponsor next week's Formula V broadcast as well. So on Saturday at 3:30 Eastern Time, we are going to be rolling around with the Formula Vs. So thank you so much for that, Michelle. I know it's not on the upcoming broadcast, but tune in for that one if you guys so please. And I'm going to go back to my hole.
Yeah, we'll get the tasers, the stun guns, and anything else we feel we can hit him with. But that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. But for now, we're going to leave you in peace. Go grab a cup of tea, grab something to eat, walk your dog. At least that's what I'm going to be doing. But we're going to see you very shortly here for the Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford at Zandvoort.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. Hey, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
the
new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
We are live for the first time on slow motion broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall, McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There.
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh, no. Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead 2. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there, heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.